Hi everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I welcome you on behalf of Institute of Nutrigenetics to this program on Industry Connect, which is an initiative to actually start meaningful conversation related to nutrigenetics. And this also aims to connect clinicians like you, dietitians and nutritionists, with genetic testing service providers so that we want this link to get strengthened, as well as to empower you with the knowledge of nutrigenetics, which will enable you to start integrating genetics into your practice. And here we have special guest today, Dr. Abdurrah, and CTO Xcode Life Sciences. So you must be aware of Xcode Life Sciences is one of the leading personal genomics company in India, and it's serving across the globe. And with the main focus on preventive personalized healthcare, and which is a need of the hour. So here we are today with him to talk about Xcode and how it is adding value to clinicians' practice, and what is the scope for dietitian and nutritionist in this personal genomics space, and so on. I'm really excited to learn from him for the next 30 minutes. And personally, I believe Xcode has changed the way I look at nutrition science and the way I practice nutrition. And I believe this session would enlighten dietitians and nutritionists like you to integrate, who are interested to integrate genetics into your dietary practice. Here over to Abdur. So we would like to hear from you how Xcode is making difference in the lives of people.
Hi, good evening everyone. Thanks Janani for inviting me for this session. I want to take a moment to appreciate the work that you're doing to educate practicing nutritionists and clinicians, and also taking this initiative to bring the community together and spread the knowledge that is highly needed. But just to check, is the audio and visual okay with your audience? Yeah, if it's not okay, please feel free to send a message, and that way we could correct things.
That's right. So there's a Q&A column in the same screen. So if you have any technical difficulties, so you can just log on there and then type in, so that we'll be knowing if you have any.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the journey for Xcode, I can answer that question through a personal journey. We started about a little over 6 years ago, and the idea was that's about the time where personal genomics companies were starting around the globe, and we were one of the first companies to set up in India. With the completion of the Human Genome Project, I think one thing was clear for sure, that things will not be the same when it comes to dietary and clinical practice. We had, before the Human Genome Project, we had been following different paradigms, one-size-fits-all paradigm. The other paradigm that we were following was therapeutic curative care. The entire concept of preventive care was absent. Thanks to the internet, where people can educate themselves about a lot of different things, they have come to the realization that there is a limitation as to the dependency on the physician, that my physician knows everything related to my health has to go through my physician. I think that is significantly changing, and one of the key drivers for this change is genetics itself, right? Most of you probably know that there are two significant components to your health. One is your genetics, and the other one is your environment, and there's a constant dialogue between these two things. Your genes are shaping your environment is actually engage in an active dialogue with your genes and shaping genetics, and that's how we are who we are today. So we saw an opportunity. We saw an opportunity in educating the individual and the professional, and went through challenges in the initial years of Xcode, and managed to get to a point where a significant number of physicians and nutritionists and other people use our services, and also an increasing number of individuals themselves actually use our reports to gain insights about their health. Right? So that's been our journey so far.
That's quite interesting. And how is Xcode different from other companies? So could you give us some insights into what are the salient features or how different it is from the rest?
There are a variety of different companies. From multiple perspectives, some companies focus only on ancestry testing, other companies focus on clinical testing, for example. There are some companies based in India whose explicit focus is on clinical testing. I think mainly, though, the difference is in approach. What do you want to serve? Do you want to serve a clinical need, which could be really well defined, but targeting a small group of individuals? For example, cancer testing. There are companies that are completely focused only on cancer. There are companies that are focused only on breast cancer testing. Okay? They're highly specialized companies. One of the early calls we took at Xcode is that we wanted to be a wellness company first, not a clinical company, but more of a wellness company, where the kind of reports we provide are more preventive in nature and also have wide-ranging applications in terms of your nutrition, allergy, precision medicine, you name it. I mean, we have now close to about 15 different reports that we provide to individuals. One of the things that has shaped us is the constant interaction we have had with our customers. What is the pain point? What is it that they understand? What is it that they don't understand? And we have this feedback both from end consumers and from practitioners that we work with. And that has allowed us to evolve in a way where we have found a point where we are able to fluidly communicate with our audience. And not to say that this will stay this way. We will continue to expand our portfolio. We continue to refine our approach. But I would say that's one of our differentiating factors.
All right. So it's quite interesting. It's that you don't have just personal genomics in terms of nutrition, but you have a wide range of products
Absolutely.
where a clinician can use it. So that's quite interesting because, like, nutritionists, they focus only on nutrigenomic testing, or they think genetic testing is only with nutrition, fitness, or health predisposition. But what he says is you have much more than, like the normal ones that we usually approach a genetic testing company for. And the next thing is about the utility. So for a clinician, what value addition does this brings in terms of enhancing their day-to-day practice? So someone is interested to include genetic testing. So what do you offer them as a company?
We obviously, in terms of product portfolio, we offer the reports that we currently provide to not only physicians but nutritionists. In my experience, what I have found is that most of medical practice, even today, really the focus is on nutrition. Let alone genetic testing for personalized nutrition. The clinical community is not, I would like to say that the nutrition paradigm within your clinical concept is pretty much non-existent, right? Except for a few tips here and there. But I think that's about to change. It's unfortunate that the Hippocrates, who's the father of modern medicine, mentioned, "Let food be thy medicine." I think after hundreds and thousands of years, we're coming back to the same paradigm that food is the best medicine that you can provide, and also, coming back to my first point, that we have been practicing one size fits all. When you say carbohydrates are bad, it is ridiculously obvious that it is not bad for everybody. There are people who can eat all the carbs they want and not put on weight. There are people who can eat a lot of fat and not have heart disease. So what is it? What is different? Although they're eating the same foods, clearly what is different is the way they are metabolizing these foods. And the other thing we used to say is that people who are skinny are healthy. It's not true. Skinny people can have diabetes, can have heart disease, and obese people can not necessarily have. Although the percentage probability of you developing a condition goes up with BMI, but so we're beginning to question these paradigms. And with physicians, we actually find a twofold challenge. One is that nutrition is not a core aspect of clinical practice. The second is that the consumer expectation is also not there. I don't go to my clinician to get nutritional advice. I go to my nutritionist. So, although we have been working with lots of clinicians, our core focus has been more nutritionists and other healthcare practitioners because from the consumer expectation perspective, a consumer looks up to the nutritionist for nutritional advice and not so much so the physician. But we have been working with physicians on cases of extreme obesity and also like irritable bowel syndrome, specific aspects of nutrition that impact clinical practice, but more preventive, generalized nutrition, personalized nutrition is usually through nutritionists.
Right. So, I mean, I don't agree with certain facts because there are still physicians who recommend
Absolutely.
nutrition,
Absolutely.
Diet plans, and so on. But I mean, it's my next question to you. So, I think in today's world, health professionals are agreeing on the fact that personalized nutrition is the way forward. But mostly, what they're looking for is evidences. Are there any evidence to say that personalized nutrition approach is effective in terms of achieving health goals or in preventing diseases? So, can you throw some light from an industry person? So, because you are generating the information that can be utilized by clinicians, especially dietitians. So, from Xcode or from the research side. So, do you think there are strong evidences? Because the recent Food for Me study proved that personalized nutrition is not as effective as the generic nutrition approach. So, what is your take? Because so you belong to an industry where you're going to support it, right? So, where can if someone is asking, what's the evidence? So, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to evidence and practice, it is more of a chicken and egg, and a lot of people are quick to question the utility of genetic testing. But I want to remind the viewers that even things that we take for granted, like your cholesterol, which was supposed to be a bad guy about 2 years ago, of disease, I mean, serious conditions like heart disease and cancer and so on and so forth. A lot of the public funding has gone towards not preventive medicine, but curative medicine. So one of the reasons we do not have definitive proof one way or another is because nobody was spending money actually either way to find out, because it wasn't a priority. Nutrition is still not a priority in many countries. Right? According to WHO, 80% of the conditions are preventable. There are metabolic conditions. The world wouldn't be in this place if nutrition was a priority to the world. It wasn't, unfortunately. Right? Now, that shouldn't be construed to actually mean that nutrigenetic testing or implementation of that practice is not useful. My recommendation to practitioners is one of the key reasons we firmly believe in going through practitioners is that genetics is one of the many data points in your body. You're starting from your the basic minimum information I can use about you to give some kind of a predictive analysis is your age and sex. You tell me these two parameters, I'm able to tell you some aspects of you. Now, every single data point that I have on top of this only makes my analysis a little bit stronger. So my recommendation to practitioners is get used to this multi-layered approach of stacking different data points that, starting from when you have no testing available. If you go back 30 years where blood testing was not prevalent or was not commonly available, practitioners used to just ask the age and the sex and family history of things and used to diagnose and prognose and do things like that based on that information. Then the blood testing became prevalent, and then your glucose testing came along, and so on and so forth. Now, genetic testing adds one more layer of information, but it should not be taken independently. It should always be taken in the context of all other information about you. This is true for every other data point as well, that you don't take that data point in isolation. And there will come a point where, the world would have moved far beyond genetic testing too. So at that point, you will have hundreds of data points, and it will be beyond human cognition to put all this together to make a comprehensive analysis of your health, and that's why the algorithms and the AIs will be extremely useful. So, if you take, except in the conditions of rare genetic disorders, where the single genetic data point is highly useful, for everything else, you need to take genetics in the context of other things that you know about the client.
I agree totally because even we keep emphasizing the fact genetics is an additional tool in dietary assessment. It shouldn't be considered in isolation. So very well said. My next question is, as a clinician myself, so there are a few challenges even if someone is interested or very keen in including genetic testing as part of their assessment. So there are challenging factors. One is cost, which is quite obvious, and turnaround time. And most of the dietitians who have started to practice are coming up with this challenge saying if it takes about 5 to 6 weeks to generate this information, so what are we going to do in that 5 to 6 weeks? And about utility of information. So not everyone who's interested has the confidence level to actually take it forward to their clients and then start to include as a part of assessment. So is there any solution that is offered by Xcode to these factors, as well as, or are you working on these aspects to overcome these challenges so that you're simplifying, you're making it easier for a clinician to take this forward?
Yeah. That's a really good point. Something that we have been thinking about. One of the challenges that I find is that we have been doing training programs for dietitians and clinicians and so on. And what occurred to me is that I'm trying to educate an individual about the inner workings of an X-ray machine, just because they want to read an X-ray. And that only has limited utility. Today, what we are asking the nutritionist is to completely understand genetic pathways and this and that, where all they're wanting to know is that tell me the utility of this information, how to use this information, without educating me on the entire molecular biology of it. Because there is not, there is like asking a car buyer to understand, where the hose is for the AC. That is unnecessary. So I think our approach to that is, coming back to your cost question, we are coming up with a new model where the cost will be significantly lower. And
can you be a bit louder so that
yeah,
we're able to hear?
Is this clear? Maybe you want to move the laptop a little bit, or you will lose the perspective.
Yeah, go.
Is this clear now?
I think
okay.
We can.
Sure. So I was saying, from the cost perspective, we are working towards a cost-effective model. We are also, one of the other things about cost is it is tightly connected to your volumes. Mobile phones are very cheap today because a lot of people buy them. If only a few people bought them, they wouldn't be all that, right? They would be expensive. So genetic testing is no different. All these different platforms are volume driven as the volumes go up. Even still, we're working towards a model where it will be extremely affordable. Hopefully in the next few months we will make an announcement to that effect. The second thing is turnaround time. We're also working on it. Again, it's tightly linked to volume. The actual technical time to do the test is really no more than 2 to 3 days. You could really push it to finish that in about 2.5 days. The problem is you need to input X number of samples into the machine, and that is 48. And in most, I'll tell you, the entire volume in all of India is not enough to actually run a lot of samples on a week-on-week basis. That's really the bottleneck for processing time. Anyway, we're working towards solving that issue as well. And the third issue that you brought up is how do you use this information in the context of things? I mean, do I need to sit there with a PDF of the blood report and this? The answer is no. We are building a platform where you will be able to input, automatically grab the PDF reports from any standard labs in India and layer all these information, the genetic information and any other information that you have, creating an interface, and you will get a one-page summary assessment. For example, you have a patient with symptoms of IBS, and this person is showing up as lactose intolerant in your genetic test and has lactose allergy and to a certain food, or peanut allergy, and has a consumption habit of that particular food. So A plus B plus C is a stronger diagnosis, and then you can eliminate that food and see what that leads to. But if you're looking at printed reports, there is a good possibility that you might actually miss a few things here. But if it's in the AI, if it's in the interface, it's very hard for you to miss because it's going to highlight everything that you need to know. So that is something we're working towards. So all of this should probably come through in the next few months.
That's great. It's integrating through AI, so different data points rather than a person sitting and then doing it all together.
The goal of this program is like, for the nutritionist, we want to create a dashboard. So you're setting up your own business, you create a dashboard, you become a partner, and you have access to subsidized pricing for all of the back-end information that you want to your client. So that's the kind of approach that we're taking.
Exactly. So that's quite exciting because there's a lot of things happening from an industry perspective, and we could see a lot of progress happening in this area now. So it's really good. And what is a message that you want to convey to nutritionists and dietitians out there?
So my message to you is that the nutritional practice has been so far a background practice. You mostly go to your clinician, only a few people go to your nutritionist, and that's about to change. As the world shifts from a curative paradigm to preventive healthcare, right? And we're coming back, like I said, after centuries, we're coming back to let food be thy medicine, and we're coming back to again what has been said in ancient texts, that not everybody is the same, and you need to treat them individually and differently. And I strongly believe that nutritionists and dietitians are going to be at the forefront of this change. That also means that there's an opportunity, but it's also a challenge in the sense that the science is evolving fast. How do you keep up with this? How do you evolve with this? So if you did your degree about 10 years ago and didn't bother to look up literature, I can tell you a lot has changed, right? How do you keep yourself updated? And the challenge here is that you have to run your practice, obviously you have your families, and then you have tons of papers to read through, which we feel is impractical. So our approach is that we are building a platform where all of the evidence, for example, the artificial intelligence puts all of this information together, provides a diagnosis, provides the evidence for the diagnosis so that you don't have to go read individual papers. It's all listed for you. For example, if you're saying A plus B plus C, this person has peanut allergy, in the allergy report has a genetic predisposition to that allergy. All of the papers that are associated with that will also be in that display so that you can selectively educate yourself and educate your client. And all of the possible solutions to the problem will also be there, which you can combine with your own proprietary information too. So that's the approach we're taking. That we feel that with thousands of papers being published every year, it is going to become literally impossible for an individual to keep educating themselves on all these individual aspects. But you could selectively educate on, for example, if you're someone who is mostly focused on PCOS, that's a subject that you really care about, right? So in this platform, you will be able to go to specific topics and be able to educate yourself about the strongest evidence that exists in that domain.
That's awesome. But the one doubt I have is on the transparency of the evidences that you gather. Will it be available for the clinician to access and to read through? Because we are leaving it to your hands, like we are handing over the responsibility to you. So in that case, will that be transparent for someone like us, like me, who will be able to access it? So you'll be providing those
as best as possible. Some of this is very expensive, and the idea is that at the end of the day, we're taking a very unbiased view here. Like I mentioned, it is when people write to me emails saying that my child is suffering from autism, will your nutrigenetic report help? My answer to them is no. Nutrigenetics will broadly help any human being who's alive, because everybody needs to eat food, and if they personalize it, it's better for them, right? But if somebody is looking for a clinical solution, we don't believe in hard selling this product. So we believe that, much as it is to me.
Right. That's interesting. So thank you so much for your valuable time. So we'll wrap up with our discussion, and we'll see how many questions are there related to this, and if you could answer it. Or if not, what we'll do is we consolidate all the question and answer and send it to you across within 2 to 3 working days as a kind of a documented information, so that you can have access to all the questions as well as answers. Okay, so one question is, clients often get apprehensive to get the test done when they get to know about the cost involved for each individual test, panel, and expect. So what's your take on it? It's asked by Richa from Delhi.
Hi, Richa. We are, like I mentioned to Janani, we are working on a solution for that. We understand that cost is, you know, cost is high. But like I said, I mean, we have tried different experiments where we have dropped down the cost, but still found that it was difficult to move the volume. And part of that is if you don't understand what you're buying, it doesn't matter what the cost is. So, my view is that that if the client is educated enough and sees the utility and the long term, if you actually calculate the long term impact of diabetes and cardiovascular disease, which the person will otherwise have if they are not personalizing nutrition and practicing good practices in nutrition, they're eventually paying the money anyway, right? So it's an investment. It's not a cost. Having said that, I mean, we strongly believe that it should be made widely affordable, watch out for an announcement from us. We are actually working on something that will significantly bring down the cost from where it is today.
That's nice. Another thing is, can Xcode help for genetic testing in Kuwait? Rashida had asked that. So she works in the Ministry of Health in Kuwait. So she's asking you, so how is it? So how do you operate?
We work with, we don't have direct presence in other countries. A few countries we do have, but for most other countries we work on a partnership basis. So you place an order. One of the difficulties with countries is that if you ship individual volumes, individual like saliva kits, it becomes expensive. And so if you have sufficient volumes and if you can batch them together and ship us in units of 10, 15, that works out better for the partners. So yes, if you'd like to partner with us, happy to connect with you.
All right. So we'll take one final question. So is there a pricing strategy to be charged for evaluating reports? Apeksha from Mumbai had asked this question. So do you also charge for evaluating the reports, or you just give the raw data, or you just give the report, testing report?
At Xcode, we are one of the very few companies that actually do this. When you place an order, if you want your raw data, we provide you the raw data as well. Now, if you have the raw data from another company, you don't have to do the test with us. You can actually provide the raw data from the company and we'll give you the report. If it's cost. So our reports are fairly inexpensive. I think each of them are about 1,500 or so, if I'm not wrong. But the testing itself, which is a one-time cost, can be close to about 5,000 or something. I think the current price is about 5,000. But if you have raw data from another company, we will take it and we will charge you that 1,500 to provide any report that we provide today.
All right. So thanks again, Doctor, for joining us today. And would you like to leave them any of your contact or website so that we could also circulate the information after these sessions?
Sure.
So in case if someone wants to connect with you, so because mostly our participants are dietitians, so they'll be interested because they want to pursue. So we offer courses in our institute. So probably they'll be eager to connect with you to start promoting genetic testing. So what is the right, kind of approach? So do you want them to connect with you or?
No, absolutely. Please drop an email to me at abdur@xcode.in.
Okay.
So I'll spell it out. It's abdur@xcode.in. And Janani can probably leave a message.
Sure, we'll circulate an email regarding this. We'll leave the website address. Yeah. It's www.exportlife.co. Yeah. So probably you can check in there, or you can leave them a message so that you can take it up from there.
Do watch out the announcement though. Like I said, we are coming up with a really interesting scheme, mostly through the dietitians and nutritionists, which will make it super cost effective. It will be one of the best pricing strategies in India today.
Nice. All right. Thanks for joining.
All right. My pleasure. Thanks.